take my tea with milk and 2 sugars.
Just a drop of milk, please.
Black.
Mint. With mint.
Plain.
No sugar and soy milk sometimes.
I'd say with you in a cup.
What if you don't drink tea? Two characters who each sort of want each other's lives, although they don't know each other. One, for example, is in a built-up town and looks up into the hills and wants to live in the hills in solitude, whereas the other lives in the hills but wants to live in the town where there's lots of people and socialising. And I have this kind of quarrel within myself where I think it'd be great to just go and live alone, like be a hermit in a way, but then I know I would really, if I did that, crave this sort of more modern society. I would crave my computer and stuff before long, probably.
The basic idea is that someone's fantasy becomes another one's nightmare. I like the process of animation. You know, the way I see it is a fortunate meeting place for many art forms to come together.
什么事都要亲力亲为，蛮累的，但是也蛮有满足感的，因为你什么东西你都可以自己控制，然后角色啊、场景啊、风格啊，还有故事的进展都可以自己控制。看这个动画的人能够跟我一样找到那么一丝丝的小时候的一点失去的一种感觉吧。就学到的是独立的那个能力，然后还有一个就是整合能力，也就是说把你所有动画你能够完整只靠你自己的个人的力量，从最开始一直到最后完成全都靠自己。
So I guess the other thing we all do is we all just go around the other desks and complain to each other about how miserable we are. And yeah, it makes you feel better knowing that you're not the only one in that situation. I think everyone's going through the same thing and we're all in it together, so that really helps.
It was one of those 3 a.m. tearing your hair out, desperately need an idea, so it just popped in my head and I was like, okay. Yeah, just at the start of the year, I just couldn't come up with anything, and then sort of came up with this idea, and it was like 2 months before the hand-in, so it's just been a mad rush since then. So yeah, it's just been a lot of stress.
I think the best thing for me to do when you're feeling bad about what you're doing, you don't like it, or you feel that you've not done enough, the most rewarding thing I find is to finish a shot, to watch it, to play it back, and to say, you know, there we go, I've achieved something, we're moving forwards.
I travel home quite a lot, so it's 4-hour train journey, and I'll get out my little sketchbook and doodle away, and someone will say a conversation, then I'll try and draw their face quite sneakily and put what they've said next to it. And there's a couple of illustrators who work that way, and I always found that an interesting way of documenting your life, you know, and conversations that you have, because they produce the best stories, I find. Conversations that you actually hear on the street.
A slightly unhinged and obsessive Lothario who goes around trying to express his love for his unfortunate love interest with fantasies of all the things he'd do to her in order to prove his love. Drawing the keyframes is probably the fun part, just because it's the only part that makes myself giggle, and then once I've drawn it about 1,000 times, coloured it in, penned them in, kind of the humour is lost, on me at least. I vowed never to cut my hair until I finish this project. Now it's getting in my eyes, so I want my vision back.
Why can't I
just write a film about a girl who's got one bit bigger than the other. I'm not animating on animation paper, I'm animating on newsprint because I like the way that the pen bleeds into the paper if you hold it for too long. So there's a lot of boiling, and because of it you see quite a lot of flickers, you see the paper grain and things. But I want to draw your attention to the fact that it's tons and tons of drawings.
What do I snack on?
Snack on?
What do I snack on?
What do I snack on?
I like Tunnoc's caramel wafers. They're pretty much the best.
Biscuits. Mostly biscuits.
Peanuts, I guess, because they're so addicting. You just start and you just can't finish. Pistachios are really good. Is that how you pronounce that? Pistachios. Okay, cool.
I really like those, you get them in Chinese supermarkets, instant noodle pots, like Korean ones and stuff, and they're really good.
英国这边的蛋糕啊、糕点啊特别好吃。
Chocolate, obviously. I eat tons of chocolate. No, I didn't.
Twixes. I love chocolate. And croissants and crisps. Crisps are my main thing.
Tea and biscuits are a very good snack. The beauty of the technique is in the texture, in the looseness of the brush strokes, but at the same time it's really hard to keep it constant, to keep the shape, to keep the direction and the movement. So I do need something to guide, and I use for that mostly kind of digital line animation. In the future I'd like to hopefully earning a living from animation, having a few kids around, learning them to animate, building up a team.
It's very personal, but at the same time I really wanted to make it universal, so I'm hoping that people will recognize this conflict in themselves. We do have, all of us I think, a need for intimacy, for spiritual intimacy. So the world is becoming more and more fast because of technology evolution being so fast and having to cope up with it. Bringing fine art painting into the medium of film, which I think it's so new that people have barely scratched the surface of what's possible in this.
One of the characters is a ex-Mexican wrestling star, which is a drunk, and the other one is a toy Japanese cat. So, you know, I mean, I don't think that reflects on me. Or maybe it does, I just don't know, you know. The more you kind of understand the character that you're working on, and the more he becomes like alive, because you let him like make the decisions. Because you go like, oh, you know, he's like, I don't know, he's curious. So you try to think like, what would he do, you know, when he's curious? So you kind of let him make the decision. It's a very stylized, but at the same time, it has this like, its own logic that it follows that makes it believable. And I think that's a big part of really trying to connect to the audience with it. So yeah.
Every day is not going so well.
Yeah, that happens to everybody, especially when you can't really see the end of the project. It's gotten to the point where you're sort of halfway through, so far away from the end still that you're not excited about finishing, but you've already gone so far past the beginning that you've lost the kind of the momentum of the initial enthusiasm. So you start looking back and saying,
putting quite a lot of time in it, but it doesn't work.
Why am I making this? This story's no good.
Oh, that scene might just need to be cut.
This is kind of boring.
There's really no more time for it.
It's not really interesting. I've not got anything finished.
The animation don't stick together, like it doesn't look good.
Spent months working on this and really nothing to show for it.
Just need to just leave all that work.
I don't think it's any good. I think the best I can do now is just to finish it and move on. Maybe a little bit melodramatic. It's not all that bad.
I can get slightly stressed when I have a lot of different things on the go at the same time. But as long as I make sure I'm doing something, then I know that I'm doing as much as I can, and then there's no reason to get stressed. Whatever will be kind of thing.
Keep your anxiety or whatever on your side, not in front of you, nor behind you, where you can't see it. In front of you it stops you, but by your side, you acknowledge its presence, and it may help you go forward.
Yeah. Every morning it feels like a pep talk to try and get me out of bed and start doing stuff. If you want to be creative, you have to accept failure, but accept that you're probably going to fail. And if you can't accept that you're going to make mistakes, then there's no room to even try and attempt something, to experiment with something. But it's really hard to get away from that fear that you're going to fail. I feel like that all the time. I feel like I'm going to fail most of the time.
No, I mean, it's a big thing making a film by yourself. It's not easy to do, and it's not easy to keep motivated while you're doing it. But
it's important to stay calm and
just take a walk.
Now I do yoga.
Blind to panic.
Sit on a chair, looking at darkness.
Last weekend I went camping.
Or eat chocolate.
Maybe sleep more.
I guess I just leave civilization and live next to a lake with goats and ducks and no cell phones.
Hide under the covers.
So yeah, that's a good option if somebody wants to relax.
You're making the worst film ever made, so.
We can cut that.
I mean,
Στην υγεία σας.
Hi, I'm Carol.
Which I really shouldn't say on camera.
Just horrible dry retching,
This isn't recording, is it?